afternoon. This is the Board of County Commissioners meeting. It is 2:03 p.m. I am Carolina Mejia, Chair of the Board. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards. To my right is Vice Chair Ty Menser. To his right is County Manager Ramiro Chavez, and to his right is the Clerk of the Board, Amy Davis. On Zoom, we have Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, as well as other staff members and community members. I'm calling this meeting to order, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, would Vice Chair Mess, would you like to do a land acknowledgement?
Yes, ma'am. We would also like to start today with the land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge the Indigenous Salish peoples who have cared for and lived on the land and waterways of this county since time immemorial and who still inhabit the area today, specifically the Squaxin Island, Nisqually, and Chehalis people, our sovereign tribal partners. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. The purpose of this acknowledgement is to disrupt ongoing erasure of injustices done and to remember history as a stepping stone towards healing.
Thank you, sir. Okay, with that, we'll move on to the approval of the Tuesday, March 29th agenda.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of the proposed agenda for Tuesday, March 29th, 2022.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menser?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Next, the approval of the board meeting minutes for March 22nd, 2022.
I move approval of board meeting minutes from March 22nd, 2022.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
No, ma'am.
No.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menser?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Today we have a presentation, a proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month, and I'll pass it to Gretchen, who's joining us via Zoom.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for recognizing child abuse prevention and its importance in our community's health and future. In the coming week, you will see pinwheels throughout the community at the Capitol and other organizations to draw attention to the national child abuse prevention efforts. Child abuse is considered a significant public health concern, impacting the health and well-being of our children, families, and community. While we know that there are ways that we can build resilience in children, research shows us that when a child experiences abuse, it often changes the developing brain. This impacts the way the child responds to stress and other experiences throughout life. Child maltreatment has been linked to short and long-term health consequences affecting mental and physical health. To truly get upstream in preventing poor health outcomes, we must start by preventing child abuse. Too many children in our county either have or are at risk of experiencing abuse. Unfortunately, our data lags by a few years, but in the third quarter of 2020, Thurston County had a higher number of children entering into out-of-home care than Pierce, Jefferson, Clark, or Kitsap counties. In fact, we are higher than the state average. At 21%, Thurston County also had a higher number of children re-entering out-of-home care within a year than the state average of 12%. Thurston County is second in the region behind Grays Harbor. Between 2015 to 2020, the number of children that were reported to have experienced abuse in Thurston County increased by 34%. Unfortunately, in 2020, the rate of child abuse in Thurston County at 34.16 per 1,000 continued to be higher than the Washington state rate. Sadly, we have had too many deaths of children birth to 4 in recent years. In 2021, we lost 1 child. In 2022, we had 3 deaths. In 2018 and 2019, we had 0. We know that families have been under tremendous stress during the pandemic, and we believe that child abuse was underreported in the early days of the pandemic when we were all in lockdown. And while we do not have data yet for 2021, we suspect that the rate may have increased and that this may be underreported as well. The good news is that we have many organizations in the community that are eager to support families and make a difference for our children. Yesterday, our Partners for Children, Youth, and Families, which is facilitated by Commissioner Mejia, and our team met, and we spent a lot of time focusing on moving forward with child abuse prevention in our community and our steps. So some of the things that we decided on was to have a primary goal of addressing child abuse, expanding our group to be a child abuse task force with the hope of adding local pediatricians, DCYF staff, and other important members of the community. And we also want to identify the messaging that we can get out to the community around child abuse prevention, including risk factors and protective factors. Our goal is to get this information out to a variety of populations in the Thurston County community. Ultimately, we want to lower our tolerance to child abuse. We also know to be successful in preventing child abuse, we must look at factors beyond those just at the family level, but those at the policy level, community organizations, and social norms. This takes all of us working together as a community. Not one organization, policy, or program can do it alone. Fortunately, we have many community partners that continue to be dedicated to working towards building supports for families. With that, I'd like to hand it over to Shelley Willis from Family Education and Support Services.
Thank you, Gretchen. And I see Bonnie Peterson on the TV as well. And I just want to say those are two women doing remarkable things in our community for child health and well-being. Gretchen, I think you really capped it up, except I'd like to say we have a child abuse prevention task force now, as you mentioned. We'd like to invite the community to join us. And joining me today is Heather. Heather Antonitis is our development director, and she has pinwheels with her, one for each of the commissioners and staff. We hope that you'll display these pinwheels broadly. Over the community, you'll be seeing pinwheels through the month of April, and I hope that they work to improve awareness around child abuse and neglect, and what others can do to help promote child health and well-being. If you'd like to join our task force, or if you'd like pinwheels, I hope you'll give us a call or find us on the internet at familyess.org. There is a vast community network of folks working hard to improve child well-being. Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Shelley, and thank you, Bonnie, too. I just would like to also acknowledge Bonnie and her 42 years of working in this community with families and making great effort, along with Shelley, to prevent child abuse.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Commissioners? Commissioner Edwards, any words?
Well, I've got a standard that I always throw out there. Kids are 30% of our population, but 100% of our future, and we really need to get this right. And I just wonder if this wouldn't be an appropriate time for the county manager maybe to mention what we talked about this morning, where we're going to gather with the different doctors involved with kids. Do you think this might be a good point to let the community know that we're right with them moving forward on this?
Yeah, certainly. This morning's conversation was related to we're going to be organizing an open house, maybe late April or early May. We're going to be asking the doctors in the community, including all pediatricians, to have a conversation, an open house with a public health officer, Dr. Abdelmalik. We will announce that. It's going to be probably scheduled maybe 5, 6 in the afternoon. So we'll give them the opportunity for the schedules to work through that. And that will really be an opportunity to see how we are moving forward on the public health in the community of Thurston County. So I invite not just the medical professionals in Thurston County, but many other organizations that will have the opportunity to have a conversation in an open house forum with Dr. Abdelmalik. So the details of that is coming up. So we just discussed that this morning. So I will keep you posted, and we'll make the announcement when the time is appropriate.
Thank you. Commissioner Menzer?
Just like to thank our guests for being here for this, and when you are ready for proclamation, let me know.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I would like to echo the commissioner's words. Thank you so much, Shelley, Heather, Bonnie, for everything you do, and of course, our very own Gretchen, for really changing the focus on partners. I think yesterday was a really good conversation on how we can move forward and what can we do. And so with that, I'm ready for a proclamation.
Okay. Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas children are the foundation for a prosperous and innovative society, and the foundation for a child's growth and development is established when every community takes responsibility for creating healthy environments where our children can thrive. And whereas Thurston County supports the strengthening families protective factors that reduce abuse and neglect through promoting social connections, knowledge of parenting and child development, parental resilience, concrete supports in times of need, and the social and emotional competence of children. And whereas a child's early experiences of being nurtured and bonded with consistent, caring adults affect all aspects of behavior and development and is associated with better academic grades, healthier choices, improved physical and mental health, positive peer interactions, and an increased ability to cope with stress. And whereas the number of child abuse victims in Thurston County increased by 34% during the 2015 to 2020 time period, and in 2020, Thurston County's child abuse rate of 34.2 victims per 1,000 children was higher than the Washington State rate of 31.6 victims per 1,000 children. And whereas 22% of Thurston County adults experienced physical child abuse before turning age 18, and by 8th grade, 35% of county youth have experienced psychological abuse. And whereas Thurston County recognizes it is the responsibility of every adult to protect children from all forms of adverse childhood experiences, including abuse and neglect, and recognizes the need for adults, organizations, schools, and communities to form protective barriers around children. And whereas effective child abuse prevention programs are essential and succeed because of community partnerships created among citizens, social service agencies, schools, businesses, law enforcement agencies, faith-based organizations, civic organizations, and other child-serving agencies. And whereas Friday, April 1st, 2022 is Go Blue Day, a day when everyone is encouraged to wear blue to build awareness about child abuse and neglect prevention, and to inspire change by focusing on community activities and public policies that prioritize prevention. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of County Commissioners hereby proclaims April 2022 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Thurston County and urges all residents to actively participate in the care, well-being, and protection of our children, adopted this 29th day of March, 2022.
Please come for a picture.
I know that Bonnie and Gretchen can't participate, but Shelley and Heather get in there with us, huh?
Sorry for missing it.
Could we have this? Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Okay, hopefully I'm coming off better.
Better.
Okay. Well, with that, we will move on for the opportunity for the public to address the board. The Board of Thurston County Commissioners welcomes comments from the public. However, there are some guidelines governing such comments to ensure they are appropriate and do not take advantage of the fact that most meetings are televised. The general speaking guidelines are as follow. Please introduce yourself, including the address you reside in the county. Please address the board, not the audience or staff. Please silence your cell phones for the members in the boardroom. Speakers are limited to a total of 4 minutes to address the board. Meeting attendees cannot donate their speaking time to another person. The board reserves the right to restrict a person's opportunity to address the meeting for good cause. No comments that are lewd and offensive, inflammatory, hateful, defamatory, or discriminatory in nature. Please be respectful. No outbursts of any kind. No comments that are commercial in nature, such as a promotion of a for-profit business. All materials provided to the county may be considered public records, subject to public release upon request pursuant to the Public Records Act, Chapter 4256. No remarks about pending land use permits or similar matters that could eventually come before the board on appeal. With that, first on my list, I have Mr. John Pettit, and right next, I have Terry Ballard.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is John Pettit. I live at 9725 Rich Road Southeast in East Olympia. I sent in a little comment statement a little earlier today. I'm going to kind of reverse some order here. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is inflation. Inflation. It affects everyone, and it affects a lot of people with families, and it affects Thurston County employees. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is because when the county takes an action of only providing a 2.5% pay increase during a time when there's 7.5%, 8% inflation, essentially what happens is you make a pay reduction in actual pay to these employees. I thought you guys liked the employees. Your actions are speaking louder than words that you don't like the employees. But you know what? All the elected got far more percentage increase in their wage. The county manager got a far bigger increase in wage. But the standard employees of Thurston County, apparently, in your view, are not worthy to receive a reasonable pay increase considering the inflation. Actions speak louder than words. Now, we all recognize we need money to pay people. How you spend the money and the revenue that you have makes all the difference in the world. There's a proposal to make this current courthouse into a law and justice center. In reality, you're so far away from any thought of doing that. In my sheet, I provided you a list of different costs that you're going to be facing in the near future in terms of doing anything. You don't even have an estimate how much a change in renovation would cost to renovate this building into that type of facility. The closest thing we have was something that was acquired back in 2015, which suggested that was going to be, at that time, about $80 million. Currently, it's probably going to be $100 million to $120 million to renovate this building. But you're going to need to have a new administration building. Back in 2015, they estimated that $117 million. Then you also referred to the idea, constant conversation, that the sheriff's office is going to have to be moved to another spot, and that's going to be another $25 million. Then you also came up that you suddenly purchased Mottman Complex. It needs renovation. That's another $10 million. Do you have an extra $252 million laying around? No. But you decided, through your decisions, two of the commissioners, not Mr. Edwards, but Ms. Mejia and led by Ty Menzer, that you want to rent a facility that you don't really need at this point. You need to take care of the current courthouse facility, and you haven't done maintenance on this facility for years and years. It looks awful. I think that when you decide you're going to spend $2.5 million a year on renting a new facility and you don't have the money to move forward, it's kind of like going to a restaurant, making up a big order of what you want, and you don't have the money to pay for it. You're going to have to decide to change directions. Hey, I'm suggesting that you cancel or postpone the lease. you can be out of it. There is, in fact, it hasn't been signed properly, it's voidable. I'm going to suggest you go that direction, read my information, and hopefully you'll make some decisions that show you care about the employees more than you do about creating yourself special environments. Thank you.
Mr. Ballard is next, and anyone else in the boardroom?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name's Terry Ballard. I live in Tanglewild, which is unincorporated Thurston County. I will say that a Jewish proverb says that a half-truth is that of a full lie, okay? Mr. Menzer there, he mentioned that we have mutual respect for our lands. We don't. It's all about profit. It's never about the land. We have, and in Olympia, they had a stormwater problem. They were paying the same stormwater as the state would, and they owed back, not like us paying the stormwater. It was just, it was not like the normal person. They're better than a normal person. So instead of Mr. Pettit made this to Olympia, and they basically owe $140 million for stormwater. And they don't own stormwater. Department of Ecology owns stormwater, not the cities and not the county. They are permitted to run the stormwater. We have 12 million daily of contaminated fluid, non-potable water going into Bud Inlet. But is there a follow-up on the county health department? Oh, no. But in proper rains, and they can't slow down the illicit stormwater slash sewer system, okay? They can't slow it down, so what do they do with this backed up waste? Oh, they dump it, again, into Bud Inlet, okay? And what happens to Bud Inlet is we have a problem with crustaceans, we have a problem with shellfish, we have a problem with a whale dying in Bud Inlet. But does that stop it from you guys collecting profit? No, it's all about the profit. It never is about the environment. Now we have potable water not going in, and we have a sludge problem. What are we doing with the sludge that we left over? Okay, that's untreated. Okay, oh, we can use that as fertilizer out in Yelm. Let's dump it out in Yelm, because you know why? It's cheaper to it's cheaper to dump it out in Yelm in the farmlands than putting it on a truck and take it to an incinerator. Incinerator. Mr. Edwards and I went through a briefing on incinerators. Did you know there was an incinerator that could get rid of the sludge, get rid of all the contamination, all the heavy metals and everything else, and you would buy, and it'd pay for itself in 5 years, and it would continue to collect green energy back into our environment so we don't have to use any of the sources that cause our pollution? Did you know that? No. It's all about the profit. Just like your stormwater system and your sewer system, just like your sewer system. I have never seen a sewer system be contaminated with aspartame, which is found in a soda, and which is the justification so Lacey can take over the golf course, Capital City Golf Course, and its surroundings. And they bought off everybody by hooking them up to a sewer that they're going to continue to pay for, because it's all about profit, free gifting of all the sewer hookups, just so they can have a proxy to vote them in. And guess what happens to the county? We lose all that revenue. But you guys approved it. They annexed it, and guess what happens when they annex it? They continue to move into Thurston County, and Thurston County unincorporated taxpayers continue to pay a higher cost of taxes because of you. Give away everything so somebody else can profit off of it. Give it all away to your friends. That's the way business is conducted today. Thank you.
Anybody on the boardroom? Nope. Okay. Let me go to the Zoom meeting, Madam Chair. First, I have on my Zoom screen Ms. Chris Ray. like to provide testimony this afternoon?
Hi, I'm Chris Gray, having audio issues, so forgive me. I'm hello.
Your
Can you-
sound is coming a little bit choppy, just to let you know.
I'm getting that. I'm getting that too. I've gone in now 3 times to see if it would help. Okay, I'm just here for the mental assistance. Stop there.
Sorry, I believe you're here for the rental assistance.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. We'll continue to work through making sure we stand in the rental assistance as soon as feasible. Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you.
Good, okay, I move to the next person that I have on the Zoom screen is Mr. Joe Hanna. You have 4 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Joe Hanna, Rainier Road, Southeast, East Olympia. I'd like to ask a couple questions today as both the chair of the Agriculture Advisory Committee and as an advocate for the farmers and the protection of some of the most fertile agricultural lands in the country that are right here in our great county. First, we've been waiting on staff to publish your rule book for committee and commissions for about a year now. Do you have an answer to when that is going to happen? Second, it seems that at least 2 of you have taken the position that you will not do anything with the Agriculture Advisory Committee until the rule book is out. The committee has submitted some very critical information to you through staff over the last 6 months to a year, and you'll receive a letter hopefully by the end of this week or next week from the committee advising that the loss of farmland and agricultural lands in our county is at a critical stage with some recommendations on some approaches to help stop this dramatic loss. Our rate of loss is to the point, if it stays at the current levels, for the data we are seeing, there will be no agricultural land left within 10 years. The committee and many of the public that attend our meetings feel very strongly that we are at a point in time that if you do not make the commitment to acknowledge this loss is critical and take action to preserve this vital resource, it is going to be gone forever. Your refusal to take action on highly qualified applicants is the committee wondering why. In the last couple of weeks, I've submitted 2 letters to you, one as the chair and one as an individual. Although I asked some questions, you have not publicly addressed or has anyone from the county contacted me about my questions and or concerns. I am a member of your Agriculture Advisory Committee because I believe in the need for agriculture in our county. I will advocate for the protection and preservation of the land we utilize, regardless if I'm on the committee or not. Please appoint those applicants that we have recommended. We're actively recruiting members, but it is hard to get someone to commit when we have to tell them you're not making appointments and we don't know when you will. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, I have Mr. Tony Wilson.
I have no comments today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I believe that will conclude public testimony, Madam Chair.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to item number 2, County Manager's Update.
I don't have any specific updates for you this afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now on to item 3, consent items, and there's A through E. Any discussion on any of the items? Any questions?
No, we've had adequate discussion in the past. Thank you.
Okay. For a motion.
I'll move to approve consent items 3A through 3E.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards,
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer,
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia,
Aye. Moving on to department items. Item 4, Community Planning and Economic Development, the 2022 Heritage Grant Program. And Jeremy Davis is here.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Jeremy and Thurston County Community Planning and Economic Development. Today, I'm here to request the Board of County Commissioners approve 6 Heritage Program grants totaling $29,000. The grants are paid for by the Historic Preservation Fund, The Historic Preservation Fund is funded by House Bill 1386, which was enacted in 2005 to set aside $1 from each document recording fee dedicated for historic preservation in Thurston County. The county created the Heritage Program grant in 2009 and began issuing grants in 2010. To date, the county has approved over 50 grant applications awarding $458,000 for local heritage projects. This has been used in conjunction with over $1.2 million from other funds, donations, and countless volunteer hours by historic preservationists in Thurston County. I do want to note that one of the first grants we issued was a special 2010 exhibit by the Washington Historical Society, From Parlor to Podium, Territorial Suffragists of Olympia. The exhibit was offered in conjunction with the statewide commemoration of the passing of the suffrage for women in Washington state in 1920 as part of our big centennial celebration at the time. This was an important educational activity which taught basic civic lessons on voting rights to students. And as a matter of fact, over 400 students participated in the spring of 2010 in this. Grant funds have also been used to fund books such as Dr. Thelma Jackson's Blacks in Thurston County, Washington, 1950 to 1975, a community album. Also our own Water, Woods, and Prairies book. It's also been used to fund place markers, restoration of historic properties, monuments, curating museum exhibits, and a range of other cultural projects to further historic preservation and education in Thurston County. This year's grant program was open for applications from August 10th, 2021 to September 22nd, 2021. The Historic Commission has reviewed all 6 applications and is recommending approval of all 6. So those applications today that we're asking to approve includes $5,000 to the City of Lacey Museum for their Lacey Leader project to digitize and publish images from the collection to their public internet portal. $5,000 to the City of Tenino for the continuing Tenino Depot restoration project for public restrooms. $5,000 to the Olympia Heritage Commission to document, preserve the story of Olympia's indie music history, focusing on the 1980s to the early 2000s. And $4,000 to the Olympia Historical Society and Bigelow House Museum for fabricating and placing storm windows at the museum. The 5th grant is $5,000 to the South Thurston County Historical Society to curate the Tenino Depot Museum collection. And the final grant request is for $5,000 to the Rochester Citizens Alliance for refinishing Sweet Hall's dance floor. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have today.
Thank you. Questions?
No.
No questions today. We've covered this earlier. Thank you.
I don't have any questions, but just again, Jeremy, thank you so much for all of this. It's great to see kind of a lot of these, organizations who have applied for these grants and just seeing them out in the community. It's just a great thing. With that, I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve the 2022 Thurston County Heritage Grant Awards and accept the Historic Commission's recommendation, including the City of Lacey, the Lacey Museum, City of Tenino, Olympia Heritage Commission, Olympia Historical Society, Bigelow House Museum, South Thurston County Historical Society, and the Rochester Citizens Group, with a total of $29,000 in grant awards.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. So with that, that concludes our department items. Very short meeting today. With that, we'll move into our standing items. Item 5. So 5A, commissioners will report on board work sessions and assigned committee meetings, providing updates on actions taken as well as upcoming issues. Commissioner Edwards, we'll start with you.
Last week, basically my week was used up dealing with the risk pool, which is a group that Thurston County belongs to for our insurance coverage, and covering things like the high cost that we're trying to get around. And I went over that a little bit this morning at agenda setting for those of you that might be interested, but that was basically my week consisted of insurance risk activity.
Thank you. Commissioner Menzer?
Thank you. Various activities. Attended the staff's race equity lunch, which the first time I had a chance to do that, and I was really impressed by participation and enthusiasm among Thurston County employees. Great questions, lots of energy around hiring practices and how to make that better process. So kudos to all the employees that pitched in, and our program manager, Nicole Miller. I got to attend my first meeting of the Office of Public Defense Advisory Committee. I represent the Washington State Association of Counties. And that's a very interesting committee for me. I was a public defender for the state of Alaska for 7 years, and a public defender in Thurston County by contract for a number of years. So these issues are well familiar to me, and it's nice to be able to connect with folks from around the state on how we can improve public defense policy across Washington State. Friday was the Chehalis Basin Partnership. That group has completed its watershed planning effort, but now is working on implementation of projects and funding. We have an issue where we are lobbying the Department of Ecology. They've said that they cannot help us, so we may be moving that effort to the state legislature. When the Stream Flow Restoration Act was passed, a well fee was collected, an additional well fee. Well, I think it was $500, of which a small chunk stayed local, but most went to the state. Those fees are just being held in accounts, and they're being held for, they have to go back to the same watershed in which they were collected, and Ecology says they have to go to a very specific project. They cannot be used for our planning efforts to strategize for kind of a more broad implementation of our plan in a higher sense. So we think that is directly on point. So the partners are going to be talking to state legislators. In the meantime, we may be sort of chipping in to try to keep the work of this group alive. Salmon Recovery Council took all day Thursday. A lot of interesting information there. We had Climate Action Steering Committee yesterday evening, and a presentation on electrifying buildings from King County and City of Shoreline on how they went about their code reforms. And then got a chance to speak at the Homeless Housing Hub's Homeless Heroes Award ceremony yesterday, where Jessica Olson from Family Support Center was honored as this year's homeless hero, but there were 5 very worthy nominees that were honored, and it was an honor to me to be a part of that ceremony. So that was the highlights of the week.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I attended the 10th Congressional District Local Leaders Roundtable with Congresswoman Strickland, and we had a discussion on ARPA funds and, you know, how accessible were they? And so it was a really good discussion between what other communities were doing around the area. I attended the Racial Equity and Inclusion Lunch Conversation. And I also attended the Homeless Housing Hero Awards, as Commissioner Munster stated. I also did the Partners for Children, Youth, and Families retreat yesterday. And last night I attended the meat processing meeting that was coordinated by Pierce County, and it was a great conversation and really informational. I attended the Timber Caucus meeting for Commissioner Edwards. Not really any major updates. There was a lot of review of information of what legislative bills got passed. And I also attended the RHC meeting, and there was a little bit of an update this morning, so I won't rehash it. So with that, we'll move on to item 5B. The county manager will review the Board of County Commissioners' schedule for the week of March 29th, 2022.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today at 3 o'clock, you have on a different Zoom, a public hearing related to a proposed ordinance outlined in the Board of County Commissioners' regular and special meetings. Tomorrow, Wednesday, March 30th, at 9 in the morning, you have an executive session related to Community Action Council, and it will be an update on the matters at hand. 10 in the morning, tomorrow, Wednesday, March 30th, you have the State of the Department associated with the Office of Public Defense. 1 in the afternoon, to 3 in the afternoon. Tomorrow, March 30th, you have the prioritization of the official docket amendments, which includes the 2022-2023 official dockets the board has approved. Thursday, March 31st at 9:30 in the morning, this is very exciting. You will have the opportunity to meet our new budget and fiscal manager. Ms. Nicole Martinez will be joining us for the board to welcome and get to know her in more detail. She's coming from Arizona, all the way from Arizona. Friday, April 1st at noon, you have been invited to participate on the Multi-Care Capital Medical Center 1-year anniversary event. That is going to be held at the Multi-Care Capital Center, 3900 Capitol Mall Drive, Southwest in Olympia. Moving on to next week, Monday, April 4th at noon, you will have your regular standing Washington State Association of Counties virtual assembly. And Tuesday, April 5th, I will not be here. Jennifer Walker, the Public Works Director, will be attending on my behalf. 9 in the morning, you have your regular agenda setting. 2 in the afternoon, your regular Board of County Commissioners meeting. And then at 3 in the afternoon or soon thereafter, you have 2 public hearings. One related to the 2022 Drainage Design and Erosion Control Manual Update. And the next public hearing will be revisions to the resolution related to speed limits in Thurston County. And that's all I have for you.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards?
Clarification on that meeting coming up, the financial person, that's a Zoom meeting?
Yes, it is a Zoom meeting.
Oh, that's a Zoom.
That's what I assumed, right, Robin? I don't think Nicole is already in town. Yeah, it's a Zoom meeting.
That's right. She is still in Arizona.
Okay.
Okay.
With that, if there's not anything else, we will be picking up at 3 with a public hearing regarding ordinance to amend Chapter 2.02. It will be in a different Zoom. Thank you to everyone. We are adjourned.